Hi, welcome to the garden in May. There's a lot that needs to be done, but 2 weeks ago everything was covered in snow, so it looks really good considering that. So we'll start with the cottage garden. The daylilies doing really well. And these are lamb's ears, and they're perennial. And they just keep coming back, and they get larger. This could be split, but there's really nothing else that is there in the way of. And the daisies. Some more daylilies, the painted daisies. The daffodils and the tulips are coming up in there. Some hollyhocks, some more daisies. The peony or peony, depends on where you live, how you say that. The thing that I like about a cottage garden is you don't have to worry so much about the form of it. It's kind of, things just grow together. So we've just found things that like this spot in the yard, and we just let them get started. Here is an old sage plant that is trying to come back. I don't know if it will or not, but I have others planted and started in the house. There's some blue flax, some more daylilies. And this is my clematis. And last year, between the grasshoppers and the drought, it really didn't do well. So I cut it all the way back, and it is starting to come. You can see that there's some green coming. So we'll give it a chance to come back before we cut the rest of this stuff back here. I need to let it see what it's going to do. And here's the second clematis. It's coming really well. It looks good. So then, on the way to the shade garden that we have dubbed the Hawaii garden, we have the fairy house and the fairy garden. This needs a lot of work in it too, but it gets played with a lot, so we keep putting it back together. Here's the fairy house that I made out of a gourd with polymer clay, and baked it and then put it on, and then shellac and shellac and shellac and shellac. So then to the Hawaii garden, the Asian garden, with the stone and the sand, and it's in the shade. And the sumacs trees make the shade for it. So there's more daylilies. Mint grows in here. That's not coming up yet. And new chives. Here's some weeds that have to be pulled out of here, but there's orchids there. And then this used to be a pond, and now it houses the mint that you can see coming up back there. And lemon balm is annual here, but there's lemon balm goes in there as well. And the yarrow kind of just does whatever it wants to do. So it just is kind of spilling out from where it belongs. So it has to be gathered up and put back in here. And there's some more orchids in here that don't come up until later. And then some of these funny little plants that I don't have a clue what they're called, but they're kind of like, they're in the family of sedum. And they grow, or they bloom in the fall. Okay, so from here, we're going to go through the gate. And the rose garden is very next. Lots of weeds that have to come out, but the roses are actually starting to come up, starting to leaf out. So we'll wait a little while and then cut back the dead part on those as well. And there's a hosta that lives over here. It's coming up very beautifully down in there. You can just see it just starting to come up out of there. And then the roses that are hopefully going to make it. So every fall, we cover those mounds with compost and then remove the compost in the spring. So then from that garden, we'll just take a peek over here. This is where I plant mostly herbs. Sometimes there's peppers and tomatoes. This is raised bed. Not everything comes back. So here's the oregano is coming. Here's lavender, and it's coming. It doesn't always. Parsley in its second year, so that means as soon as it starts blooming, then it will put all of its energy towards seed. So there will be some more parsley that goes in here so that we have parsley for this year as well. All right, these are chicken waters that have lived past their time, so they are going to be strawberry buckets of strawberries. I just have to figure out what to do with the tops. All right, then we're going to go back and take a look in the vegetable garden. All right, so this is perennials. This is always here. If you read in my blog at all, you would know that I talk a lot about the fact that the weeds usually win. But there's raspberries that come in here. This is a cherry tree, produces lots of cherries. This is my bucket that I sit on when I weed because I can't get down on the ground anymore. So that just goes everywhere with me. I'd be lost without that. And then these are currant bushes. And currant bushes. Another currant bush. So most things are starting to bloom out really well, and I'm not sure what this one's going to do, but it looks like it's got buds coming, so we'll give it a while before we yank it out of there and see if it can do something. And then there's the asparagus over here. It's not quite coming yet, but it will. and the horseradish. And then this is for the chickens. All right, and then on the other side of the chicken house is the rest of the vegetable garden where the potatoes and peas are already planted. All right, so this is where the vegetable garden will be this year. Also on the blog, you find out that the chicken's yard and the garden trade places every year. So this is last year's corn. They'll tear it down and get rid of it. And this was our garden year before last, and this was the chicken's garden, or the chicken's yard. Only part of it has been tilled and planted. The rest of it will happen. If it doesn't rain, it will happen this weekend. If not, it will have to wait until next week. This is the drip tape. This is the main line for the drip tape. And here is planted the peas and the potatoes. So here's peas just starting to come up here. And so 2 rows of peas and 3 rows of potatoes. I don't know if the potatoes are coming up yet or not. I couldn't find any, but it doesn't mean that I missed them. Hello, chickens. Every time we step outside, the chickens think that we only came out here to give them some scratch. Right, so here is the plum thicket. It's wild plums. And there's lots and lots of blossoms coming. Right, so that is the garden in May.